Hey guys, so any air travel is a special adventure, right? Even those who've spent 1,000 hours in the air are nervous once again when they step on board. And honestly, how much do we really know about commercial aviation? Well, today we've gathered a list of several facts you probably didn't suspect and, could be useful to you. So first off, welcome to our channel. Today we're going to talk about the secrets on airplanes. So, you ready to take off? Let's go. So, many passengers notice the interesting symbols that look like a black triangle above the windows in the middle of the plane. What are these black marks? Well, some call them William Shatner's seats. In an episode of The Twilight Zone, William Shatner could be seen sitting in a spot with the black triangle near the plane's wing. But nothing seems to be strange here. Now, the black triangles indicate the places with the best view of the wings. This lets the crew quickly find the best place to look at the wings, and especially the flaps. Additionally, the marked window might be used for visual checks in case of a chassis malfunction, to check for ice on the surface, and maybe to see if the engines are smoking. Now, if you've ever sat in a window seat next to the wings, you might have seen the small yellow bump on the wing and wondered what it's there for. So that bump is actually very significant, and in certain circumstances can actually save the lives of the passengers, including you. So the smooth and aerodynamic wings can become a serious downside during evacuation in case of an emergency landing. The aerodynamic wings create a slippery surface for the passengers that will evacuate through the emergency doors over the wings. So these bumps are actually used to secure safety ropes from the wing to the door that the passengers can hold onto, keeping them from falling off the wing. So have you ever thought about why most planes are white? Why don't airlines brand their planes with their colors? Now, it's not a lack of imagination or a desire to save money, even. It's actually very practical. First, the white paint reflects light, and then that way the plane won't get as hot while flying. Second, paint will quickly heat up and fade in ultraviolet light, unless it's white. Third, a white plane is more visible to other pilots and birds. According to statistics, there are fewer bird strikes with white planes than other colors. Fourth, a white plane is easier to service since cracks, dents, and deformations are more visible on a white background. Finally, it's easier for airlines to trade planes temporarily or permanently. All you need to change is the logo and the name. Don't know if you knew this, but the captain can actually arrest you mid-flight. There are handcuffs on board for this. When the doors are closed, the plane's captain is given unlimited authority. He can arrest a passenger, write fines, and even accept a dying person's last wish. Of course, he doesn't have the full legal right to arrest someone, but he can limit their freedom on the plane and hand the person over to the authorities upon landing. Now, some airline pilots are given different food that they can't share amongst themselves. This is in case something causes food poisoning. In that case, the second pilot will always be healthy and can continue piloting the plane. So, why are the lights turned off during takeoff and landing? Landing and takeoff, as you may know, are the most dangerous parts of a flight. So, this is first and foremost a precautionary measure in case of an emergency. The darkness lets your eyes adjust so passengers won't be suddenly blinded if something happens. And you have to go to the doors in the dark or through smoke. The lit paths leading to the emergency exits are also more visible. Also, this lets you better see what's happening outside the plane. Second, dimming the lights is necessary to save electricity. It's produced by generators on the plane, and they're always working at full power. Now, the jet engines run the generators and reduce their RPM during landing to slow down. The lights are turned off to keep something extra from interfering during the peak stress on the generator, and to prevent extra risk of short circuits. Passenger safety is the absolute priority for airlines. That's why they've thought of absolutely everything. You can open a bathroom door from the outside with no key necessary. The door's lock is generally hidden behind the no smoking or lavatory sign. Now, this is in case someone gets sick in the bathroom, or maybe if a mischievous child, like mine, got stuck inside, or if the door is just simply jammed. Now, have you ever noticed the whiskers hanging off a plane's wings? Have you ever thought about why they're necessary? They're actually tiny antennae that perform a huge function. They prevent static electricity during the flight. During flight, friction with the air naturally causes a charge to accumulate. To discharge that charge and avoid static electricity, it needs a pathway. Now, pilots can sleep during a flight, just like you. About 43 to 54% of pilots working in the UK, Norway, and Sweden admitted that they sleep while flying planes. During long flights, pilots are given relaxation times when the second pilot takes control. There are even specially equipped sleeping areas for this on planes. However, the pilots in the survey admitted that they fell asleep involuntarily, not during their given time. Sounds scary, doesn't it? Also, pilots aren't allowed to grow a long beard. Are you surprised? Do you want to know why it isn't allowed? Glad you asked. So when emergency situations arise, all the passengers and crew members are given oxygen masks. They should be flushed to the face. And a beard can get in the way of putting a pilot's life in danger. But there's another reason. A bearded pilot can make passengers not trust them, and that's out of the question. That could lower the airline's rating. Pilots are also recommended to not get piercings. Passengers may associate that with stupidity or immaturity. People think they are unprofessional. So sometimes we see white lines in the sky floating in the air for several hours or days behind planes. Is that normal, and are these white trails safe? So when a plane is in the sky, its turbines dump waste gas into the air at temperatures over 11,000 degrees Fahrenheit. When at altitudes of 6.2 miles, the air temperature is -40 to -58 degrees Fahrenheit, so that hot gas turns into steam. It looks like a white trail and is called a condensation trail, so it's absolutely natural and thankfully safe. So have you ever heard that flying in economy is safer than business class? This is because business class is towards the nose of the plane, which is the area that is usually hit in a crash. Additionally, the safest places are considered those near the emergency exit. However, research has shown that there are no safe places on a plane. But planes are still the safest type of transport. So why are white spirals drawn on airplane engines? So the spiral around the center serves two functions. First, the spiral helps show if the engine is on. Second, the spirals are drawn to scare birds. When a plane is on land, sounds of other engines can drown out the sound of aircraft technicians. As a result, employees may not hear the engine of the plane they're working on and get too close to it, causing them to get sucked into the jet engine. But if you look at the spiral, you'll know if the engine is on or not. During flights, the spiral rotates and creates a visual flicker that scares away birds, so they generally don't approach flying planes. Now, many people flying for the first time are afraid and start to panic when they see the holes in the windows. The window is actually made up of 3 panels, and the holes are in the middle one. Now, this is to balance the pressure in the areas between the panels. And if there weren't any holes, the window might increase pressure in the cabin. And a change in pressure level, by the way, is a serious and potentially dangerous problem. If the cabin pressure changes suddenly, like in an explosion, it could destroy the plane. Luckily, most decompression events happen because of minor damages, giving the crew time to do something. As soon as the pressure in the cabin drops below a certain level, oxygen masks are automatically deployed. To be exact, it isn't quite the oxygen you would think of in a diving tank, for example. Oxygen tanks are too heavy and bulky, so the planes use a more complex system. The panel above each seat has a cocktail of chemicals that create oxygen when heated. When you pull a mask down, you activate the chemical process that can't be stopped while it's burning. The bad news is it's enough oxygen for only 12 to 15 minutes. The good news is that it's usually enough time for the pilot to descend to a safe altitude, about 0.6 miles. So if the oxygen masks deploy and the plane starts to quickly lose altitude, it isn't because it's falling, but because the crew is doing what they should. Now, being a witness to lightning striking an airplane isn't a sight for the weak-willed. Is that true? Well, it's scary enough to think about, let alone say what happens to a plane struck by lightning mid-flight. But is it really so dangerous and scary? Actually, there's nothing unusual that happens when a plane is struck. And according to statistics, lightning strikes planes 1 to 2 times per year. But how are planes undamaged after a sudden shock of energy measuring about 1 billion joules, the equivalent of a quarter ton of TNT? Well, there's a covering that protects the cabin and passengers that's built in a way to guide the electricity, but not let the charge inside with the crew, passengers, and electronics. In addition, all the electronics, structural connections, and fuel tanks have additional, very powerful defense from external electric charges. So lightning strikes in the modern world, on modern planes, aren't really a problem. When a plane was landing, I somehow noticed the pilot's side windows were open. My first ideas were they're smoking or taking selfies. Why would pilots really need open windows? So the open side windows aren't needed for smoking, selfies, or ventilation. The open window is an emergency exit. The door between the cockpit and the passenger section is armored and has a code lock. It may jam in an emergency landing. Now, although there's a hammer behind the pilot chair for this, there may not be time to break down the door, and it's easier to open and jump out the window. Also, if the plane is taken over by terrorists, the pilots, in an emergency, can abandon the plane, leaving the passenger part behind. In case of capture, special forces can board the plane through the window and pass through the cockpit to the passenger section to disarm the capturers. Luckily, the windows are used for this extremely rarely. Well, that's all I've got for today. Leave a like if you learned something new. Comment if you think after watching this you do want to fly in a plane again, or maybe you just stick to road travel for a while. We'll see you next time.